All righty. Well, here we go with the TestGeek SIE practice test with right along with James here. And I'll be using this to kind of riff James with you. So talk out loud so I can see what you're thinking, right? So I can
Okay.
either say stinking thinking, or I can say, hey, that's a good job, and that will always work. And then I'll also be using this as kind of a intellectual inventory of your brain housing group. So like question number one, after you answer it, I'll ask you some additional things that we should be aware of and see how you do on that. Which of the following securities is marginable?
I know it's not B or D, so I'm thinking it's either A or C.
Well, which of the following is marginable? We should know that we can't do margin transactions in a custodial account. So we should know that A is out. Custodial accounts have to be cash accounts. So we were just talking earlier about grammar. The test geek himself, I might take exception with Brian saying what securities are marginable and then asking about a custodial account. And A is just out. It's not that the listed stock is not marginable. It is. It's you can't do margin in a custodial
Okay.
account. Now,
Then it'll be C then.
you go right on. Now, who's in charge of deciding what securities are marginable and what securities are not marginable? Who's in charge of credit extension of broker dealers to customers?
Is it the issuer?
It's Reg T, the Federal Reserve Board.
Okay.
Federal Reserve Board determines what securities are marginable, what securities are not marginable. Open-end funds are not marginable because they're a new issue. And it's considered a new issue 30 days from the effective date. So that's why B is out.
Okay.
And then you got the correct answer. C, we don't lend you money to buy options. If you want to buy an option contract, you have to pay in full. So the answer is indeed C. And let me just, since this is not an interactive kind of a thing, let me get put that down here. Boom. C. All right, number two. The city of Philadelphia issued $100 million in municipal debt 3 years ago. The bonds were issued with a 20-year maturity and carry a 5% coupon. It is backed by the city taxes and the full faith and credit of the city. These bonds are referred to as
General obligation bonds?
right on, right on. Now, when you go on from your SIE to your Series 7, there's going to be about 20 questions on the muni bonds, and a lot of those questions are going to be distinguishing between GOs and revenue bonds, right? So I wouldn't do it for the SIE unless you feel like it's a buffet. Take what you like, leave what you don't. But when you're 7, I would certainly take a sheet of paper and fold it in half, and on one side write all the terms associated with GO bonds, and on the other all the terms associated with revenue bonds. Revenue bonds would be user fees, right? So that's a big type of a question. By the way, D is a subcategory of revenue bonds. So good job. 3, the major difference between an open-end management company and a closed-end company is very, very testable to know the distinctions between a closed-end fund and an open-end fund.
Um, well, I know A is close end. Close end is determined by supply and demand.
Closed-end fund. Now, again, closed-end fund, you are correct. You are correct. The major difference between a open-end company and a closed-end oh no, we got it wrong. The open-end company, right? So the grammar here is a little challenging. The open-end company sells shares through a continuous primary offering.
Right. So yeah, so open end is B. A
Right,
is close end, right?
right on, right on. Very much a test question. Make sure that you're aware you're going to get questions on that. On your SIE, There's lots of mutual fund questions, and we want to overlearn. I just told you GOs, for example, 20 questions. On your Series 7, there's going to be 20 questions on mutual funds. So
And that
really,
would be the like the packaged products section.
that's exactly right. Exactly right. So I always joke, you told me you're going on to a 7, but if somebody's listening to this and they're watching this and they're going on to a 6, you can almost pass out of a 6 based on learning the SIE. All right, 4. Any sale of securities outside an associated person's or the employing member's firm's regular business is recognized as
D.
right on. Very testable. It's called a private securities transaction.
The way I think about it is like because it could also be to me it could also be A, but I feel like the questions I've seen is
Yeah, I
you
would
know
say
when
business.
you would have to like reach out to your broker for an
Yeah,
outside business activity where it'd be like you're driving for Uber or something like
yeah,
that.
you're exactly correct. And outside business activity is the test language, right? And securities industry, that would be something you're doing for pay. Your example, Uber. You know,
Yeah.
Michael Grimes is the general securities principal in charge of tech banking in Silicon Valley. And only Michael Grimes would this. The Goldman guys would never do this. But when he was pitching Uber to do the IPO, he decided that it would be kind of fun to be an Uber driver of the weekend and say that, he drove it. So who would have ever thought that you're getting in an Uber with the head of tech banking at Morgan Stanley? I think of it, by the way, your point is exactly right. That's an outside business activity.
Yeah.
I don't know if Michael Grimes, I'm sure he probably do. I would guess he's smart enough to have donated that money to charity or something. But I'm sure the Goldman guys are probably when he brought that up and you're talking to the Uber
The
guys.
Goldman guys don't even have time to drive for Uber.
What?
Too busy
Yeah,
working
exactly.
100 hours a week.
Yeah, probably true. They go, you got time to do that? So,
Yeah.
but you're correct on that outside business activity. And then private securities transaction, they might ask you on the test, an associated person of a broker dealer sells an investment not sponsored by his employing broker dealer without permission. This is a prohibited practice and is known as,
So anyway.
yeah, very much a test question. And at most firms, that's a strike 3 offense, meaning you don't get your first 2 strikes. We get you doing that one. Which of the following terms best describes a corporate debt instrument secured by a pledge by the issuer of property that consists of stocks and bonds and other corporations? I like this one.
I'm gonna say it's a collateral trust certificate.
Good job. That's exactly what that is. If this had secured by a pledge of major movable equipment, then it would have been D. If it said full faith and credit, no pledge of collateral, then it would be C, a debenture. You also need to know that the secured bonds, the only one missing here, by the way, in the secured bond category is a mortgage bond, and that'd be secured by real property. You also need to know that is senior to the unsecured bonds, right?
Let me ask you a question. On the test, will it have the order, if it says, oh, list it from
Yeah,
top to
yeah, they
bottom?
don't. The FINRA exams don't do scrambled multiples, but yes, they would have the answer set, and you'd have to go from senior to junior,
Right.
or junior to senior, from senior to junior in terms of capitalization. Capitalization is the equity and debt a corporation is issued. It would be secured debt, unsecured debt, preferred stock, common stock. From junior to senior, common, preferred, unsecured debt, secured debt. Very testable,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was going to ask. But do you know, I mean, I guess it just depends on what the test says, but I know it could either say secured, unsecured, preferred common, or could it say mortgage holders and then debentures and then preferred and then
Yeah,
common?
I haven't had any debrief that people have seen it that way. If anything, I think the test prep vendors make it more convoluted than will on the test.
Okay.
It's like learning a foreign language. So please be clear what I said. I referred to the capitalization of a corporation. How do we capitalize a corporation? There's no such thing as a corporation that has not issued common stock. Now, whether you choose to capitalize through the issuance of other things, other securities like preferred stock, like unsecured bonds, convertible bonds, which are unsecured, those more, that's up to you. And some companies have very simple capital structures, and some company has very, complex capital structures. So, I kind of understand James, this guy, he's the head of, I think it's called MicroStrategy or something. And my understanding is that he's arbitraging his capital structure of his corporation with the price of Bitcoin. So when you're looking at the financial statements, you're like, anyways, to me, it's too much of a magic box to try and figure out.
Right. Yeah.
If it had a simpler capital structure, it would be easier to figure that out. I like six because sometimes we don't ask you to do the math. We just ask you, well, how would you go about doing the math or recognize it? I think on the SIE, you might have to use your calculator maybe two, three times, four
Yeah.
max. And one of them would be total return. So total return.
I don't like picking questions where it says like any or I don't know, there's like certain words, but I'd pick
No,
D.
I'm with you. I think as a good test taker, you shouldn't take terms that are, other way I say is socially pejorative, like always
Yeah.
or ever,
Yeah, like
unless it's like a
only,
question
any.
like the,
Yeah.
the only time I would say that's not true is like when can you rip off somebody? Never.
Yeah.
Should you be, acting in good faith always? But other than those kind of ethical kind of questions, yeah, I would say away from socially pejorative terms.
Yeah. I would say D.
You are correct. The way I say there's only two ways to make money in an investment, the income stream and or price appreciation. And total return is indeed on your SIE, right? So one thing I tell people to do, James, particularly on the TestGeek exam, is to night before and morning of just read the question and the right answers
Hmm.
because there's very strong correlation to the exam. And you might, it's a good way to warm up. Most people's circadian rhythm is not waking up. Oh, SIE time. Your brain, needs a little, I'm not new age
Right.
anyway, but we got to be intentional as we start our SIE. All right, number seven. The penny stock cold calling rule defines an established customer. This is very testable as one who has.
I don't think it's C. I feel
It's
like it has
not.
nothing to do with it. Made it.
There's two ways to be an established customer. This question, the other would be to do three penny stock trades. That too would make you an established customer. So this is the second way. Now, the point about being an established customer, James, test question, is I don't have to get you to sign the suitability statement that you understand you're buying a speculative low price security if you're an established customer.
Hmm. Uh, Purchase small stocks, bottom passing one. I'm gonna go with D.
You are correct. I got a couple more test questions for you.
I was like stuck between A and D.
Yeah, no, you're correct. Now, I got a couple more test questions for you.
Sure.
What is the definition of a penny stock? Very tested. What's the definition of a penny stock?
It's a stock that could be it's non-listed on the over-the-counter market. And it's like sold below less than like $5.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, as we're playing this game together, as we go through the practice exam, I'm being a kind of jerk because I'm asking you to pull it out of the stratosphere. And you're on the test, you're going to have an answer set in front of you, right? So good job.
Yeah.
There's a distinction about how often frequency you get statements. If you have a penny stock in your account, I've got two questions for you. You have no penny stock in your account, no penny stock. What is the standard to send customer statements minimum frequency?
Quarterly.
Yeah, right on. If there's a penny stock in your account, then So there's a penny stock in your account, then you get a statement
Uh,
monthly, very testable,
Monthly? Okay, I didn't know that.
monthly. Well, that's what we're doing, right? We're doing taking a
Yeah.
little intellectual inventory. You're doing fine so far. So, I mean, everything's good, right? So, not a problem. Regarding stockholders' rights, each of the following is true except. Each of the following is true except.
Hey,
Yeah, come on.
yeah,
Right.
they can't participate in the management
Oh,
of the
yeah.
company.
Hey, I'm a shareholder. I'm here to talk about. Right on. You have a right to vote on matters pertaining to the corporation. Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
Remember, there's two styles of voting. Well, I actually should say three. There is statutory voting. That's pretty simple. Three board seats. You have 100 shares, 100 yes, no, 100 yes, no, 100 yes, no. There's cumulative voting. Three board seats. You have 100 shares. You have 300 votes. Cumulative voting protects minority shareholders. And then we have super voting shares. And super voting shares are shares that have more than one vote per share.
Statutory voting is you're focusing on a larger group of
Yeah,
people, and
that's
it's like you have they're voting. It's is it per share?
right. Yeah, it's vote. Yeah, you have 100 shares, statutory voting. We're voting on three board seats. You vote 100 yes, no, 100 yes, no, 100 yes, no.
And then cumulative, it's a smaller
Well,
set.
if, even if it's
You put all
smaller,
your shares into one or something.
yeah, that's right. I go joke like propositions on the ballot. Boring. 10 propositions. I vote yes, no, yes, no, yes, no on 10 propositions. Statutory voting. I think it'd be more fun if it was cumulative voting. Now there's 10 props. I have 10 votes. I can put all 10 on legalizing cannabis or not, but I'm done. I could put five on cannabis, five on Native American gaming, whatever, right? So that protects minority shareholders. And then remember, super voting is more than one vote per share. I saw Zuckerberg being interviewed, and he said it doesn't really care what people think about Meta's, you know, capital expenditures because I have super voting shares.
Hmm.
And so, even though I don't own 50.1% of Facebook, I control more than 50.1% of the votes through my super voting shares. Elon wishes he had super voting shares in Tesla, but he doesn't. And he
Yeah.
keeps rabble rousing, like, I need more stock,
Yeah.
all right. Do you have to attend the shareholder meeting to vote?
No, you can send through a proxy.
Right on. Right. Prior to 1934, we would have shareholder meetings at 11:59 p.m. Alcatraz Island. You had to be present to vote. There'd be a thug on the dock, and you'd ask how you're going to vote. Nine, a registered rep is introducing options terminology to a client. Of the following, which would be an accurate explanation regarding owners and writers of listed equity call options? So, option contracts and contracts outside the securities industry always have two parties, a buyer and a seller, right? So,
Hmm.
somebody who pays the consideration, somebody who receives the consideration.
I know it can eliminate B and C because the owner has the right, they're not
Right
obligated.
on. Right on.
Um, and then the writer doesn't have the right, they have the obligation. So it'd be D, the owner of a call
Excellent.
has the right, and the writer would then be assigned to be obligated to the shares.
Excellent, right? So, James, you are long a 90-minute tutoring. You did an opening purchase. You're long the owner, the holder. I am short. My family gets upset with me, but I'm demented. I use these terms
Hmm.
outside of our industry. And they said, hey, my mom said, what's up? Going up? Going on today? I said, I'm short a 9 a.m. tutoring session. I'm,
Yeah.
obliged to, show up at 9 on the Zoom and deliver the 90 minutes. Otherwise, I shouldn't have collected the money, right?
Is there any other way they could like phrase these answers where it's
Uh,
like, is it
I
just,
like these. I like what I like here is that on your SIE exam. So we've so far said three things about your SIE exam in terms of content. I said that on the SIE, munis are a much smaller component than they're going to be on your Series 7. You get about 20 options or 20 muni questions.
okay.
I said, secondly, that on your SIE, mutual funds are a lot of questions on mutual funds on your SIE, and
Okay.
there's going to be about 20 on your Series 7.
Okay.
And this is the third and last time I'm going to say this. On your SIE, there's only 3 or 4 option questions. Most of them are recognition like this.
Okay.
So you don't want to learn strategy and you just want to get a strategy question and guess B and assign it to the universe, assuming you get it. I don't think you're going to be at risk. Now,
Yes.
that's not true of your Series 7. There's going to be 20 plus option questions, a lot more than just recognition. By I mean by recognition, James, is, when do options expire? What's the difference between American style and European style? When does the option agreement have to be back? I call that recognition. There's very few practical application in general on your SIE. I told you I would be prepared to do total return, current yield. And then here's another one I just said, if you want, you can assign the universe. They might ask you a break even, for example,
Okay.
and a protective put. Do I think if you can't do a break even on a protective put, a put protecting a stock position, that you're at risk of not passing your SIE? I do not.
Okay.
Now, do I think on your 7, you better understand all those 9 strategies and break evens and max gains and max losses? I do. And, I was complimenting on how nice you look. Uh,
Yeah.
and, I would assume that means that you're not a baby broker being paid full time to study and pass
Yeah.
the SIE, the 7 and 66. So that could be a challenge as somebody who's not a full time studier to carve out the time necessary on the 7.
Right.
I realize it's probably a challenge to carve out a part of the SIE. So you might have other things. You're maybe currently have customers who maybe you can't tell them, hey, I'm busy with the SIE for the next couple of
Yeah.
weeks. I'm out of pocket, so you might have family, you might have other things. So 7's going to be a bigger deal in that regard for sure. But this is
Right.
called nomenclature terminology, right? I like that he said terminology because terminology also helps us kind of qualify the customer,
Right.
right? If he doesn't understand the terminology, maybe he shouldn't, I told you I've been building this off-grid location. I'm not a contractor. I'm not an off-grid guy. So I can't tell you how many times I got to tell this contractor, I have no clue what you're telling me. Can you put that in plain English for me? So, is there a way to explain that to me that isn't, a breakpoint sale, very testable.
It's A.
Right on, right on. Breakpoint sale is a violation of the code of conduct. The code of conduct is the ethical behavior that associated persons and broker dealers owe customers. We all agree we're not going to do a breakpoint sale. Be careful. RTFQ breakpoints are good, quantity discounts. I always think of Costco, quality discount. I get a better price because I'm buying in bulk. I
Mm.
go, man, I don't need 2 tons of salsa, but it's so cheap, right?
Yeah.
Breakpoints are good. Breakpoint sales are bad. What are some other bad things? Selling dividends a big no-no. Churning's a big no-no. These are all violations of the code of conduct, right? So it wouldn't be good if you pass your Series 7, you come back to your manager and say, I want to do some breakpoint sales, open some fictitious accounts, do some churning,
Yeah.
front running, selling
Yeah.
dividends. These are all bad, bad things. Now, the
This
easiest,
the salsa may come in handy for this weekend though for the Super Bowl.
well, there you go. There you go. And of the easiest way to stay out of trouble with the breakpoint sale is to tell the customer all the ways they can get the reduced sales charge, right? I tell you, where's that breakpoint, that quantity discount? And then I might say, hey, I know you don't have that yet, James, but maybe we should consider very testable filling out a letter of intent.
It expires after 13 months and can be
Right.
backdated for 90 days, right?
Excellent. Excellent. Now you say, hey, Dean, there's no chance I'm coming up with this. I said, well, at least let's James get rights of accumulation. Now, the difference with rights of accumulation is you don't get the reduced sales charge up front.
Right.
So every once in a while, people ask me on tutoring, do I have quantity discounts? I say, oh, you're asking, do I have a break point? If you buy X number of hours, do I give you a reduced rate? I say, I do not. I said, but I do have rights of accumulation. After you've been bought 3, 4 hours, then we can discuss moving forward and maybe a reduced rate for you. It depends who you are. This guy's a private equity billionaire, and no, he's not getting any reduced sales charge in any universe, right? I love it. A municipal finance professional wants to make a political contribution to a candidate for mayor in the town that she resides in. Under MSRB rules, a contribution to this candidate without restrictions. And the key is you can vote for this person. because we can't vote.
It can't exceed $250.
That's right. Now, what's
Now, if like say like it does exceed, is it I forgot, is it 2 years you have to wait before they can
yeah,
vote?
you could be you can imagine how mad your municipal finance professionals are going to be. You could be put in the penalty box for 2 years for negotiated underwritings. I don't think you'll see that on your SIE. You will see the $100. You know what the $100 is?
That's gifts to a client.
Yeah, well, not to a client. It's the max gift or gratuity of an employee of one broker dealer can give to the employee of another broker dealer.
Okay.
So, James, on your approved product list at your broker dealer, there's lots of mutual funds you can sell. And you reach out to me and you say, "Hey, Dean, I saw that you are a wholesaler. You're an associate person of the fund distributor, and I'd like to talk to you because I'd like to integrate into my production your mutual fund family." I go, "James, that's wonderful. I'll be in town, your town on Thursday. Let's go have lunch."
Hmm.
And on me, I said, "James, that's a normal deductible business expense. I don't think you're being compromised to make independent decisions based on lunch." And then I get out my, my wad. I'm a guy with a money wad. I have a binder clip with a bunch of $100 bills on it.
Hmm.
And I get out my binder clip and I get out some $100 bills and I start putting them on the table. I say, "James, you tell me when.
Yeah.
10 $100 bills, you say when." I go, "Hey, this is tax free, James. No 1099 between you and me.
Right.
Don't tell anybody." At that point, it's debatable whether you represent your broker dealer and its clients or whether you represent me in an effort to defraud your customer and his clients. And so the maximum gift or gratuity an employee of one member firm can give the employee of another member firm is $100. Doesn't count normal deductible business activity, doesn't count reminder advertising.
So if it says like the same member firm, it could just be like a dinner expense or like
Yeah,
a
yeah. I say, "Hey,
okay.
well, yeah, James, why don't you invite your prospects and clients to dinner this evening? I'll come talk about professional management, diversification, ease of ownership, mutual funds. I'll pay for the dinners, the pizzas, the sodas, whatever. That's fine. Normal deductible business expense." I think
And
of
for a
reminder
client, is it
advertising.
the same? Like $100 for a client?
No, no, I could spend $1,000. I could take it, in Vegas. It's an Italian restaurant called Nora's. That could be way more than 100 per person. Not a problem.
The reason I asked, there was a question in the STC where it said you had like two tickets to, like the Knicks game,
Well, it
and they were
depends on the context there. So they're not going
okay.
to get into the context on your SIE. If you come to your 24, then they will. Am I in
Okay.
attendance? Or, is it the championship game? There's a lot of context that would be there. As
Yeah.
I said, they're not going to give that to you on the test. However, I don't think if I'm a season ticket holder and I invite you to the game as my guest, that you've been compromised. But when in doubt, always a good answer on SIE, check with your immediate supervisor.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
until I retired, from California, Vegas, I spent most of my career in San Francisco. I sat on the floor at the Warrior games. Yeah, those tickets are big money. And I invited a guy to join me, and he said his compliance department wouldn't let him do it unless I was in attendance. And I said, well, and it had to be less than I said, "I am attendance," but he said, "It's on the floor. It's too much money." I go, "No, you're going to be 30 rows back. You're not sitting on the floor with me. I'm inviting you to use my other tickets, which are, in the rafters for $50." I'm joking, but kind of. All right, 12. A registered rep working for a broker dealer takes a position on the board of a corporation for compensation. So you're not on the board of the Red Cross here. It's not a volunteer kind of a thing.
No B and D are out because you have to give written notice.
Right on.
Reject. I'm gonna go with A
You are correct.
because the thing that sticks out to me is C. It's like I could be it could be C too, but then it's like when it says the firm must expressly grant permission.
There, you got it. I like it. Excellent, excellent. 13. A common shareholder's preemptive right is. Let me clean up my slide.
B.
Right on. The mechanism for that is a rights offering. A rights
We were
offering.
talking about rights of accumulation or preemptive,
Well, no,
right?
not rights of accumulation, a rights offering. So I call you and I say, hey, James, you have 1,000 shares of the corporation. They're going to be issuing additional common stock. You have a right to maintain your proportionate ownership. You have the first right of refusal on the issuance of new shares. The mechanism for this, James, is a rights offering. Very testable, James. Rights are short term. It makes sense that the rights are short term because they need the money and they need it like when. And James, to give you an incentive, they can't make you buy the additional shares.
Hmm.
To give you an incentive, they're going to pass on the savings of not using an investment banker to you and test questioning and let you subscribe at less than the current market price. So at issuance, these already are in the money. These rights at issuance have intrinsic value. Now, if you don't want to exercise, maybe we want to trade them to someone else.
Yeah.
So your rights, James, can be traded, they can be exercised, or they can expire. He said, well, Dean, it sounds kind of like an option. I said, well, yeah, options can be traded, they can be exercised, or they can expire. So, yeah. Now, you have to be able to test to contrast rights with warrants. Warrants are long term and at issuance exercisable above the current market price.
Okay.
You have to be able to contrast those two.
Okay.
14, market risk for common shareholders can best be described as
I know that A is wrong because shareholders have the highest priority, and
that's right.
then income from this. And then I know C and D are wrong, so it's B.
Yeah. Shares owned will to be declined. Yeah, that's right. Good job. I kind of funky wording on that one, but yeah.
Yeah.
An interstate public offering of a direct participation program, a partnership, require public disclosure. Would require which public disclosure?
What sticks out at me the most is B, but
Yeah,
since
I'm kind of with you. Yeah, I don't really kind of agree with Brian's question here.
yeah. I
But
mean, I
it's
know, I mean, I think I, I mean, it's not a red herring.
it's not a red herring.
I don't know about the part. I think it's maybe D, but like I've
You're
never heard
correct.
of an offering.
Trust your
I
gut.
know, I mean, I can't remember if I heard of offering
Yeah,
circular.
trust your gut on this one. I'm kind of with you. I don't like Brian's phraseology here. And the reason I don't like it is because, again, I don't think this is the test question about an intrastate offering of securities. However, what he's trying to get at is that intrastate offerings, Rule 147, are exempt from 33, the Prospectus Act, right? This is a safe harbor under 33. Safe harbors are ways to sell securities without registering them under 33, without doing that cooling off period and that S1. Rule 147, Reg A, Reg D, these are what we call safe harbors. Now, if we're using this exempt transaction, I think the more important thing to know about this Rule 147 is the issuer has to have 80% of their business and assets within the state to have this work. We can only sell it to residents of the state. And then 6 months later, they could sell it to someone else. So I just think this question is not spot on in terms of what you're going to see on your actual SIE exam about exempt transactions. And that's what Brian's trying to get at is this is exempt from 33, the prospectus or paper act, right? And that's called, by the way, that's called Rule 147. So in the test, they would give you some context. A Rule 147 intrastate offering of securities.
Hmm.
And by the way, it doesn't have to be a partnership. We could use it to do, shares, sell shares, or whatever we want to sell. For the owner to be paid a dividend, their name would have to be included as a shareholder no later than, I like this one.
My first thought jumps to X date, but they're not like asking. I feel like they would ask something differently there. So I'm gonna go with record date.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Because I feel
Trust
like
me.
they would be like, okay, like the day prior, like
Yeah,
before.
no, yeah, don't bring extra stuff in the question. I always joke, what if they
That's
meant,
tricky because I like my first thought was like
yeah,
X date.
yeah. The X date, there's two test questions about the X date. Wasn't the answer here. The X date test question, what is it? It's the first date on which the stock no longer trades with the dividend
Yeah,
attached.
yeah.
When is it? It's the same as the record date, right? Because it says here you got to be on the record date. Now, your point, James, I'm glad you didn't overthink it. To be on the record date on that Thursday, I'll just make up one Thursday, September 16th, you'd have to buy it Wednesday, September 15th. Different question. They didn't ask what's the last date you can buy the stock and get the dividend. That'd be the day before the record. So I like how you kind of reasoned your way. So the X date, the payable date simply when they cut the checks, right?
And
So
unless it's regulation T, everything's basically T plus one.
that's right. We don't tell customers this typically because we don't want to use our money to settle their trades. The Uniform Practice Code standardizes trading practices within the securities industry. And we all agree between broker dealers, we're going to settle T plus one. Trade date is when we agree to terms. The next business day, we settle up. Ownership changes. Now, Reg T says that clients get 2 additional days. So if you buy the stock today, what's today, February 4th?
Hmm.
This would be the trade date. And then tomorrow, Wednesday, would be when the broker dealer settles. And then I, as a margin clerk, couldn't bother you until Friday. T plus one plus two. I say, hey, James, margin clerk here. Where's your money? You say, I have a cash account. I go, whoa, James, whether you have a cash account or margin account, the margin department determines whether monies or securities due. And I'm the margin clerk. And so I'm calling you to ask where the money is again. And hey, you say, Dean, oh man, I'm sorry. T plus one plus two. They get 2 additional days for settlement under Reg T. That's T plus three. I say, I'll tell you what, James, we're going to get you an extension. It comes from good standing, pretty likely. I'm going to get you an extension, from the Federal Reserve Board, kind of in the normal course of business. Then I say, you flake, where is your money? Now, at some point, if you don't pay, I'm going to sell you out. And by the time I sell you out, maybe there's a profit. Do I have to give that profit to you? I do. But then I say, you free rider, you took a free ride, a ride you did not pay for. You bought that stock, James, and you sold the stock and you never paid for the buy. So I'm freezing your account. Now be careful on this. It's testable. The freeze is for how long? 90 days. The freeze is 90 days. Now, what I'm freezing is not your ability to trade with me. What I'm freezing is your credit privileges. So for the next 90 days, I want your money or your securities up front. Right? We have pretty little liberal credit privileges. So you violate them, that's going to be a problem. The price received for purchases and redemptions of shares of an open-end investment company. I like that Brian is continuing to hammer this point, TestGeek, because it is a big-time test fodder to be able to distinguish about the price received from purchase redemptions, and I like this one.
I know they're asking about the NAV here.
That's
I
exactly
know
right.
I know it's not A or D. I'm just like the
That's right.
phrasing is just tricking me. Hold on. The current market.
You're correct. I love your process of elimination. So you're correct. You got it to a 50-50. You're telling me it's either B or C. You are correct. And boy, and SIE is a giant reading test, right? So if it's a closed-end fund, it's either B or C, or if it's an open-end fund, it's either B or C.
I'm going to say B.
You are correct. Test question, what is that called? This concept. They're always doing business based on the next calculation of the NAV. I say, James, I don't actually know how much money you're going to get when we redeem.
Hmm.
Within 7 calendar days of receiving the redemption request, the mutual fund will cash you out at whatever the next calculation is after they received your request.
Right. It was kind of tripping me up, those two, because the way I think about it is, isn't the net asset value calculated on like this? Is it on the same day?
Once per business day.
Once per business day. So
Some,
it tripped me up because it was like next calculated share price. So I was thinking, oh, it could be, I don't know,
well,
I
if
think next
10
day.
a.m.
But
10 a.m. this morning and they do it at 1, then that's the price. If
okay.
the market closes at 1, we do it at 1:30, it's 2 o'clock, it'll be the next day.
Share price. Okay.
Very testable. That is called forward pricing. Very testable. The idea they could say, the concept of doing business with an open-end company based on every all the next calculation can best be described as, and we would say forward pricing. And some people don't like forward pricing. You certainly don't have forward pricing in an ETF or a closed-end fund because remember those would be done based on supply and demand. That forward pricing is very much a test concept, right? If current market value, if this said the price received for purchases and sales of a closed-end fund, then it would have been C.
Hmm.
An issuer of a new municipal bond would disclose. I've got I don't know if that's a type of grammar. An issuer of a
Disclosure.
new municipal bond would file which disclosure to the MSRB? I didn't. I like it. It's the perspective, like
I know
doc.
it's not red herring. It's a preliminary
Yeah.
prospectus. Form G37. I don't even know if I remember even reading about that. It's going to be C, official
Yeah,
statement.
right. The official statement. The official statement serves the same purpose for a muni bond as prospectus for, corporate securities. It's to help you make an informed decision. In a secondary distribution offering,
And existing shareholders. All shares are issued from the corporation. Shares are issued from existing shareholders to existing shareholders. No primary offering is new issues.
right
C.
on.
C. I know it's gonna be C or D. Shares are issued from C. Shares are issued from existing shareholders,
Right on. Right on. Yeah.
not two.
Yeah, I was not a big fan of the Hyatt Hotel IPO, the initial public offering, because it was a secondary distribution. None of that money went to the Hyatt Hotel chain. It went to the Pritzker clan. You're entitled to know whether this money is going to the previous owners, Pritzkers, or if it's going to build the company, right?
Yeah.
When a limited partnership direct participation program liquidates its assets, what is the order in which claims are satisfied in ascending order?
D.
Yeah, good job, right? I think here, like the bank that holds the mortgage on our apartment building,
Oh
right?
wait, just to go back a second. I think I got 19 wrong because I said C. It's D. Shares are issued
Oh no,
to.
you said no, you got it right. I think I highlighted the wrong one. Good
Oh,
catch.
okay, it's C.
You said
From.
yeah, you said it right, and then I highlighted the wrong
I just
answer.
wanted to make sure.
Nope, you got it right. You got it
Shares
right.
are issued from.
And you got this one right too. Right. Boom. Excellent.
If it
Right.
says descending order, it'll be, general partner limited and
Yeah. Yeah.
secure.
Right. The GPs typically get paid on the back end.
Could it also say general, like it was saying ascending, could it also say mortgage holders limited and
Yeah,
general?
absolutely. Absolutely. Now on the SIE, maybe 1, 2 partnership questions. I think the more likely partnership questions are that partnerships are illiquid because you can't get out of a partnership as a limited partner without the permission of the GP. Right. So I'm either going to give you permission or not. So that'd be one test question is no, the general partnerships are not liquid, not like a stock, right? And then the other test question would be this idea of the general partner providing the management and the experience of limited partners, limited liability, providing the capital.
Okay.
Market interest rates have been rising. Market interest rates have been rising. What would the effect on market prices of existing bonds in the secondary market?
So if interest rates rise, bonds decrease, it's going to be C.
Right on. That's a
It'll be the
huge.
flip. If bonds are increasing, then
That's right. You nailed it. And
interest
that
rates are falling.
relationship can best be described as inverse.
Oh, right, inverse. Inverse.
I always joke if anybody asks you about, finance, economics, investments, you want to sound smart, you should say it has a lot to do with interest rates. And if you just shut up, you sound good. People say, what about them? You say they fluctuate.
Mhm.
Is that good news or bad news? You say it depends. Can you tell me some more? Then you can spice it up. So I'm watching the Federal Reserve Board. I'm worried about monetary policy. They're the ones who control interest rates. A client and his sister, both of whom are married, would like to purchase shares in the XYZ mutual fund. They both will contribute 50% of the purchase and will like their portion of the assets to go to their families if they were to die. As a registered rep, what type of account would you suggest?
The two that are sticking out to me is A and B. Client
You are
assistant.
correct. It's A and B, and it's very testable to be able to contrast those two.
Sure. Not specifying kind of like which person would die for. I'm going to
Yeah.
say B. I'm going to
Yeah.
say B.
You say tenants in common, and you are correct. All right. That is very testable. On the test, they might say the decedent share goes to their estate or beneficiary. Right. And an A, very testable, the decedent share goes to the surviving party. So you got to be able to contrast those two. A corporate bond has a coupon of 6.25, and at the present time, its yield to maturity is 6.75. From this information, the bond is trading, most likely trading
So the coupon can also be identified as a nominal yield, correct?
right on the nominal yield, fixed or stated rate of
So if I
return.
think about my teeter-totter
Oh,
equivalent,
love it. Oh, it turns me on. That's what you should be thinking
it's
about is the
nominal
teeter totter.
yields, then no, nominal yield, then the yield to no, hold on. The nominal yield, then to yield to maturity, or then the current yield, the nominal yield. No, yeah, the nominal yield, then the yield to maturity, then the yield to call. Is that how it goes?
You tell me, and then I'll tell you.
Okay, I'm gonna say nominal yield, then par, then yield to maturity, then yield to call. Final answer.
Oh, so what are you at? What's your answer?
Okay. Hold on. For this, the bond is mostly trading at a discount because it's
Yeah.
less than yield to maturity. Because it goes nominal yield, then I think par, then yield to maturity,
Yeah,
then
for
yield.
a bond at a discount, right? This is a bond at a discount. So it'd be your point, nominal yield, current yield, yield to maturity
Oh,
yield.
there we go. I forgot about that. Nominal yield, current yield, then
That's
par.
the par is not has nothing to do with yield. That's the
Okay.
price.
Okay.
Right? If the bond is priced at par, that's a price. All the yields are the same. So since this bond was issued, test question, interest rates have gone up
Mhm.
because it's yielding 6.75, right? So if you buy it on the day's price, you go, well, Dean, brand new ones pay about 6.75. I go, well, yeah, so does this based on your price you pay at a discount, right? If this was something like if I said the same question, a corporate bond has a coupon of 6.25. At the present time, its yield to maturity is 5. Then you would tell me it's trading at a premium, right? So you're going to get at
That
least
one more time.
what's that? I said if this same question said a corporate bond has a coupon of 6.25,
Hmm.
and at the present time its yield to maturity is 5.
Hmm.
From this information, the bond would most likely be trading at a premium,
Got it. Yeah.
right? A company has issued cumulative preferred stock. Very testable. Preferred stock. Preferential for treatment and dividends. Can't pay a dividend common if you're in arrears to your preferred stockholders, and preferential treatment and liquidation.
Not A, because you have to pay
That's right.
arrears. Pays a minimum current for pays for paying pays for it's not D. B pays admitted and current preferred dividends.
Right on. So you say B is in boy? Correct.
Yes. One question I had, because this is one I've had trouble with too, where it has the question where it's like it's based on cumulative preferred stock, but it's asking me to like basically calculate, okay, how much like
Yeah.
in arrears are you gonna, and
Yeah.
like
You
I always
calculate
get
the
tripped
arrears.
up like how to calculate that, like how
Well,
to
you
add
just go into
it.
arrears. I think the best way to think of it is your phone bill, right? If you don't pay it this month, the next month your bill will include last month and this month. And when you ask them how much it takes to get current, they say, well, you got to take care of the 2 year in arrears in and the current one, right? I
Mhm.
call, I say, hey, hey, I know I'm down a couple payments on my phone bill. What's my current balance? I want to get current. And they say, well, Dean, you got 2 months in arrears in this month. You want to pay the two in arrears or you want to pay everything? Now, in a preferred stock, I don't have, I have to pay it all. I have to make good on whatever I'm in arrears before I pay a dividend to common.
Mhm.
So yeah, preferred stock is definitely there. I don't think you're going to have to calculate arrearage on your seven. I think you will. On your SIE, I do not think you're going to have to actually calculate that number. But where
Okay.
most people blow up, James, and it's not a transaction, it's a relationship. If you find that, just screenshot it and send it to me. But what
Yeah.
most people blow is this idea that you have to take care of the current dividend as well.
Yeah. I'll send you
Yeah,
the
send it to me.
question. I was having trouble. Yeah, I'll send you that.
All registered reps must complete training that covers the practices and processes of their firm.
See,
Right on. That's an annual requirement.
it used to be every 2 years.
That's right. They're always changing things, aren't they? I
I think I
mean,
got into the business like right when it changed, or
your customer is an income investor, has indicated like to receive quarterly income. The most appropriate recommendation would be, I like what Brian's getting at in this question.
so for me, I have to think which
Yeah, so we
which
have
is
some things that
income, which
pay
goes in.
semi-annually, we have things that pay monthly, we have things that pay quarterly. That's why I like this question. What this is getting at is what securities do we have that pay
I'm gonna go with A, utility stock.
Right on. Yeah, stocks, if they pay quarterly. Bonds pay semi-annually.
Yes,
Josh's
yes.
question, do you know treasury strips pay nothing until maturity? Do you know what pays monthly? If it said that your customer is an income investor, has indicated they'd like to receive monthly income, what do we have as a security that pays monthly income? Very testable.
B, would it be B?
Ginnie Mae's. Ginnie Mae's test question. Ginnie Mae, Government National Mortgage Association securities pay interest and principal monthly. Corporate bonds pay semi-annually. All bonds pay semi-annually
Okay.
every 6 months.
Okay.
A customer would like to invest $73,000 into a mutual fund with a breakpoint at 75,000. The most appropriate action would be,
Uh, C, you can reduce it by the order of 10.
yeah, that's the best way to stay out of trouble is tell you how to get the best deal. I wish other businesses were like ours, James. I like to sometimes I'll say, is there any deal I don't know about? And they go, what do you mean? I said, well, my business, I got to tell people how to get the best deal.
Oh, wait,
And
stupid question, but treasury strips, are they a bond or a stock?
no, Treasury strips are zero coupon bonds, OIDs,
Okay.
issued by the U.S. Treasury. You would
Okay.
buy them at a steep, steep discount and hold them to maturity.
Okay.
They're good for somebody who needs a set sum at some future date, right? So I was at a baby shower. Pay attention to the phraseology. I said, I have the baby $20,000 when they start college. I did not say, I have $20,000 today. And what I did was buy baby Grace $20,000 of treasury strips. I bought those at a steep, steep discount. Her mom, baby Grace's mom's name, Michelle. I said, hey, Michelle, this rate of return is locked in. These are not callable, right? So, you don't have to worry about interest rates going up or down, except that, your quarterly statement, it'll go up or down, but we're not selling these. So what do we care? There's no market risk here in terms of interest rates because we're going to be immune from that because we're just buying them and holding them to maturity. Now, every once in a while, I have a suitability practice test for the Series 7, James. And sometimes people will take exception to that story I just told because I rolled it into a practice question.
Hmm.
And they'll say, well, 529. And I said, well, 529 doesn't give you a set sum of money at some future date. There, your money is going into a mutual fund, and you would have the risk of that mutual fund. Here, you have no credit risk, and I just told you have no interest rate risk. And so then, I got to tell them my question stands as is in terms of the testable content. We use all zero coupon bonds, whether it's a corporate zero, a treasury strip, broker dealer strip bonds, and come up with their own version. It's called a treasury receipt. The questions about zero coupon bonds are they great for somebody who needs a set sum of money at some future date? That rate of return is locked in. Somebody wants to lock in the yield because a regular bond every 6 months you got to reinvest, and depending on what you're going to do with the money depends on your overall rate of return. Here you have no reinvestment risk because you're not getting any money to reinvest, right? That rate of return is locked in. There's no calculation of accrued interest. So yeah, I would expect a question or two about treasury strips or zeros of some way, some fashion, right? I call them
Hmm.
magical products too because Michelle doesn't understand it. She calls me every year it goes up. I go, yeah, every year it's going up because it's getting closer, right? So
Yeah.
now there is one thing that sucks about zero coupon bonds is you have to do straight line amortization upward called accretion. You're paying taxes on money you're not receiving. Now, good news in my story, James, baby Grace is in a very low tax bracket. All right, 28. Your customer receives a stock dividend. You're going to get a question on stock dividends or stock splits.
Hmm.
100 shares currently priced at 50. After the dividend, the customer will own.
It's going to be C because if with a stock dividend,
Always more shares at a low
yeah,
price. You don't even have to
exactly.
do the math. It's always more shares. I need something more than 1,000 at something less than 50.
If it was what's the term?
If it was a reverse
A
split,
reverse stock, a reverse split, then it would
less
be
shares at a
less
higher,
shares, higher cost.
right? So, I tell people that get worked up on the math here, you don't really need to do the math because that will always play out on the test. Now, when I say that, somebody will take exception and send me a practice question. And I said, well, I wasn't talking about a practice question from a test prep vendor. I was talking about actual questions on the SIE. Your customer purchased a triple A corporate bond above par. The yield to maturity. So another teeter-totter question.
Yeah. 29 D.
Not D, higher than the nominal yield will be a discount. So remember, here's our teeter-totter. Here's our teeter-totter. Boom. And it says you bought this above par.
Right.
So that means that looks like this. And so it says the yield to maturity. So the yield to maturity is down here. Boom. And so they're asking, where is that? Higher than the current yield? It would be lower than the current yield because current yield would be in here, right? This would be the nominal yield. Or the nominal yield doesn't change, that's the coupon, right? So the answer to this question, above par, means you paid a premium. And that means that the higher than the current yield, lower. The answer is B. 29 is B.
Lower than the current yield. Yield to maturity lower than okay. Um, higher than
By the way, my friend, that is your first miss. So,
I'm
so
trying to I'm
is your
trying to think too. Hold on. So it's lower than the current. I can see that on the teeter, but then also on the teeter totter, it has what yield to maturity, and
yeah,
that's
it's down here.
above
I
the
don't think you'll
nominal
see
yield.
this. I don't think you'll see this on your SIE. Certainly on your Series 7, this will be yield to call. It's
Right.
very likely this bond is going to be called because interest rates have gone down, and that's why the bond has gone up. Right? There's our interest rates right there. And remember that relationship we discussed was inverse, right?
Right. So I guess is it I'm just trying to understand it so I get that like aha moment. So it's like if the corporate bonds is above par, but it's not saying
It's
it's
saying
above.
premium. That's what that means. So above par is premium, below
Okay.
par is a discount, right? So above par, if you purchase a bond above 1,000, that means you paid a premium,
Okay.
right? You paid a premium. And now the question is saying, where is your yield to maturity in relationship to the current yield or the nominal yield, right?
Hmm.
And so it's saying, where is it in relationship? So I check out the first one. The first answer says that the yield to maturity is higher than the current yield. And
Hmm. Right.
the B says
Well,
the,
this is going down. This is
yeah,
going. Oh, okay. That's what's
yeah.
confused maybe.
But like I say, as your tutor first miss, we'll take it, man. That's,
Yeah.
particularly based on your test date too. I would tell you, listen, we will, we might want to consider taking a drop date. Say, hey, if anybody chickens out, I'll take their spot, get this thing done. Right. So, I mean, that's a pretty good performance. This is the first time you've seen this exam.
Yes.
That's excellent. I mean, I'm just excellent. So listen, if you go, 29 and 1 and you do that a couple of times just to get, you're done, right? So what I love, James, is that when people are scoring like you are here, you have what I call, which I think is really a dreamy place to be, a margin of safety, right? There's
Don't
no,
jinx me now.
yeah, well, I won't change. I mean, that means you should be able to handle any kind of variables like a
Good.
face of death draw or something, so
Yeah.
it's a good place to be. All the following are money market security. By the way, you said don't have me jinx you, but make sure other people don't jinx you either, right?
Yeah, I know. I
Guard your
know.
psyche,
Yeah.
say, hey,
I'm
I'm in a
jinxing
good
myself.
spot. Please don't bring me down, right? All the following are money market securities except all the following are money market securities except.
See repurchase agreement. It just doesn't fit with them. I'm gonna say a repurchase agreement.
Oh man, you're right. I jinxed you. Two misses in a row. Oh my God, I apologize. I apologize. Repos are money market securities. A
Okay.
money market security, very testable, is high quality debt maturing in less than a year. And so a treasury bond maturing within 5 years is not a money market security.
Hmm. Okay.
So this was a bad miss because you should have known B is not true because you should have known the definition. Now, a
Right. Right.
repo is overnight lending. A repo is where I say, James, here are my treasury bonds. I would like to borrow some money overnight. That's called a repo. And then
Yep.
tomorrow, James, I give you back your money a little extra. And you give me back my treasury securities. And so
Yep.
I just told you, again, that's high quality debt because if I don't show up tomorrow, James, you keep my treasury securities. It's less than a year. So that is indeed a money market. Now, I'm not so worried about repos and whether you know repos or money market securities. I am concerned as your tutor that you know the definition and you know the negotiable jumbo CDs are Negotiable meaning a CD with a secondary market. Jumbo meaning 100 grand. I am concerned as your tutor that you know that bankers' acceptances are used to facilitate foreign trade.
Hmm.
It's a letter of credit with a max maturity of 270 days.
Hmm.
One I would add to this is your tutor, I want you to know, is commercial paper.
Hmm.
Commercial paper is also issued at a discount, like bankers' acceptances, and has a max maturity of 270 days. Now, the reason this is testable, James, is because I ask, what do you want to do with your idle money at the broker dealer? We have a traditional bank account, James, with traditional FDIC insurance up to 250 grand.
Hmm.
Or would you like to put it in a money market mutual fund? The money market mutual fund that has a NAV at $1 and buys money market securities. So those are the two things we have for folks, right?
Yeah.
All right, you quote the price of XYZ, so two misses in a row. Oh my goodness. I've got two hash marks, and usually I would have more by now. Let's pull it out. You know, you quote the price of XYZ to a customer at 72 bid for 1,000 shares and 72.25 ask for 700 shares. This is testable. Which of the following, which statement is true?
Customer answers to ask. So I know the the broker dealer
The quote is always from,
sell shares at the ask price.
what's that?
Is it the broker dealer sell shares at the ask price?
Remember, yes. So if I'm a market maker, I buy at the bid. I'm willing to take 1,000 shares into my inventory at 72. Market maker buys at the bid. So let's just put that there. Right. So, and I sell at the ask. Whenever a customer is looking at two prices, the customer always pays the high price and receives the low price. So I'm saying, James, right now, as you as a customer can sell at that price and you can buy at this price. The quote is always, I always think of the analogy, a good one would be cars, right? You know, I go in and I say to a car dealer, how much for a Lincoln Navigator? And he goes, 90 grand. I'll go, great, I've got one. Where's my $90,000? He says, well, Dean, I'm sorry, that was my asking price. I thought you wanted to turn money into a Navigator, 90 grand. Now, Dean, I understand you want to turn a Navigator into money, 50 grand. Very testable. The difference between those two prices is my spread. That's how I make my
Mhm.
living, the difference between what I buy things at and I sell things at. So 72.25 is currently the best price your customer can sell. No, remember the customer is selling, he's going to sell at 72, right? So A is out. 72 is the best price the customer can buy. No, the customer can buy at 72 and a quarter, right? So B
Mm.
is out. The quote's inside spread is 10 cents. No, the spread is the difference between the bid and the ask. The spread is 25 cents. Spread means difference.
Right.
72 is currently the highest price. There we go. This is the highest price the buyer is willing to, any buyer is willing to pay for 1,000 shares. So the grammar on this question is pretty atrocious.
Yeah, I was gonna get this wrong. I was gonna pick
Yeah.
A.
Now
So
mark you wrong. So I'm going to mark you wrong. That's going to be three in a row. I would say the grammar here is atrocious though. So I think what I would have done is process of elimination. I would have said, okay, well, based on this quote, you'll get a question like this. I don't think it'll be as bad on the grammar. 72.25 is currently the best price you can sell. No, that would be called the inside bid. That's out. The best price, right? So
Mhm.
Brian is just saying here about the inside market. The inside market, by the way, is the highest bid and the lowest ask, right? So, and that too is testable. This is called the inside market. The highest bid and the lowest ask, right? And that's what Brian means by his phraseology on this question, which I think is kind of a bad one. By the way, how would this be expressed in a level one NASDAQ data feed? It would be expressed as 72, 72.25, 10 by 7. That's called the size of the quote. So I would say, James, right now, as a customer, you can buy 700 shares at 72 and a quarter. You can sell 1,000 shares at 72. Right, so that's that inside quote. So again, I think the grammar is kind of rough on that one, but you're going to see a bid and an ask on the test. What if I don't honor? Let's say this wasn't the inside quote, and I'm a market maker, and I give you this quote, and then I say I changed my mind. Very testable. Let's say on the test, a market maker fails to honor a firm quote.
Mhm.
This is a prohibited practice and is known as
Backing away.
right on. So remember, we've had a couple terms here. We had backing away, we had selling away, we had forward pricing. So, there's some terms that are pretty testable. A difference between a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA is
I'm gonna go with A.
contributions to a Roth. No, Roth, you're using after tax money. My God. We, James, have now missed four in a row. Man, we got to pull it out. Do we need to take a little 10-minute break or?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, so you're right. I didn't think I jinxed you, but I certainly did.
No,
The
you're good.
answer here is B,
Oh, shoot.
right? The Roth is never going to be deductible because you're funding it with after-tax money you've already paid taxes on,
Okay.
and it's means tested. The other big test question about a Roth is Roths have no RMDs, no RMDs, whereas a traditional retirement account has an RMD required minimum distribution at 73. All right. All right, let's get back on track
All right.
here.
Yeah. This.
All the following would be acceptable gifts from a member firm to give to employees of another member firm located in the same office building. Who cares? That has nothing to do with answering this question. Except,
B.
yeah, remember, I'm a wholesaler. I say, hey, James, here's some box of chocolates. I don't think that compromises you. I say, hey, James, we'd like to fly you to the home office for training purposes. Not a problem. Let's have dinner. Let's break some bread together. Hey, James, how about I send you to the Bahamas? So yeah, that would be definitely not a normal deductible business activity, not reminder advertising, right? That'd be a problem. You could just imagine your compliance officer calling you, and you pick up the phone. I go, where you at? He goes, hey, I'm in the Bahamas. I'm doing a boat drink. I said, oh, cool. I didn't know you were going on vacation. Yeah, well, the wholesaler sent me down here. He handed me a couple of airline tickets. I go, James, did you miss this on your SIE or 7? You're not supposed to be accepting those kind of gifts from people. 34. If a registered rep possesses material inside information, under which circumstances would it be considered illegal?
Let's go with D. If he tells him in trades
Yeah, I
only.
don't like the question, but yeah, if there's no trade, then there's no harm, no foul.
Could it all? I mean, so like someone could tell someone like it's
You'd be
illegal,
an
but it
idiot.
can't be like unless he trades on it.
That's right. You'd be an idiot to do that. But yeah,
Right.
as long as there's been no trade, no personal benefit to you, the leaker. By the way, every firm has to have WSPs,
Written
written
supervisories.
supervisory procedures. There has to be a section on insider trading. I would know the penalty is three times the profits, right? So you make 9 million, I charge you 27 million. You say, gee, Dean, there's hardly any profit anymore. I go, yeah, exactly. That's the point.
And it can be
And
20
James,
year, 20 years prison sentence.
that's right. It's criminal and civil. So writing checks doesn't scare us, but going to jail and making new friends,
Yeah.
that does.
Yeah.
When an investor borrows shares to sell short, so in most businesses, when you sell things you don't own, it's called fraud. Not in our business.
I'm gonna say C.
Yeah, as long as I can borrow the stock from you, that's fine. I might call you and say, "Hey, James, the guy we borrowed the stock from wants it back." And you say, "Well, you're not, no, I don't want to give it back." I said, "Well, too bad. If I can't find you a replacement certificate." So this is one of the dangers in selling short is that the person you borrowed for the shares from may ask for them back. Now, very testable, whether you want to borrow money or borrow securities, you must have a margin account. All short sales must be conducted in a margin account. Test question, shorting stock, selling stock you don't own has unlimited risk. Daniel Drew, legendary Wall Street speculator, said those that sell what isn't his'n must eventually buy it back or go to prison. So, I always in my videos say, don't be a dumb bear. Why do something that's going to subject you to unlimited risk? So I might say, James, why don't we do some risk mitigation here? Why don't we right now put in a stop loss, put in a buy stop and say, okay, well, at what point are we going to, say this is a bad idea? Or maybe, James, maybe we establish a choice to buy back the borrowed stock at a set price anytime between now and some future date. Maybe we add a call contract to this thing just to keep it from blowing up on us. By the way, there's a locate requirement. So before you sell short, I have to see if I can borrow it from on your behalf. You're right. That's called the locate requirement. And we're getting this, James, from our customers who have signed test question the loan consent form. That loan consent form is optional. So nobody in my firm has to give you or lend you the securities. I have to find a customer who signed that loan consent form. When you open a margin account, the documentation required is the credit agreement, mandatory, the hypothecation agreement, mandatory, and the loan consent form. And that's where we get the borrowed stock and stuff. Which oil and gas partnership would have the least amount of risk?
I don't think it's C. I haven't heard of wildcatting.
Well, wildcatting is synonymous with exploratory. Wildcatting is where
Oh,
you
it is.
go
Okay.
someplace no cat has gone before and you drill a hole. You either win big or you lose big. So if this said the biggest risk, it would be A or C because they're the same things.
Okay.
Exploratory is known as wildcatting, right? Did you watch? Are you watching, James? If you haven't, I highly recommend it. Have you been watching Landman?
Landman. What's
Yeah.
that?
It's a series on uh, Paramount with Billy Bob Thornton, and he's in the Permian Basin, which is the largest geological formation of oil and gas in the country. I spent time there 30, 40 years ago when I was doing syndications in oil and gas. And
Ah,
that is income programs. We're buying proven producing reserves. Everybody in Odessa, Texas knows there's oil. Now, whether it's profitable, that's a different deal, but income is when we buy proven producing reserves. And that is the least risky. So it's actually D. Now, as I mentioned, if you miss all the
it
partnership,
is wildcatting.
you said wildcatting, I think, and that's a wrong
Oh no,
answer.
I said it's not. It's not wild.
Oh, my bad,
Okay.
my bad. Okay, well, Tudor needs to listen better. My bad.
I
Were
was
you
like, I
gonna?
never heard of wildcatting before. I was like, I don't think it's
Yeah,
wildcatting.
wildcatting is exploratory. So I say, James, you want to go wildcatting? That means we're gonna go places other cats don't go.
Yeah.
I joke, James. I was telling you my life has changed quite a bit, but I used to travel the world.
Yeah.
I used to go to some places that were, on the edge of civilization, we'll say.
What's the what's like the I guess I don't know the most intense place you've visited?
Well, I was in Minsk in Belarus, which with a guy who's kind of an old style kind of Soviet guy, Lochenko, who's he's still a dictator there. And I've been in some very precarious places in the southern Philippines, primarily an island called Mindanao,
Okay.
and a city called Zamboanga. And
Wow.
Zamboanga, well, anyways, I was in the bar and they had one of the leading industries is kidnapping. And the bar guy goes, "Yeah, we just lost three Germans over there. They were, snorkeling." And I go, "Well, listen, I'm a single guy. I'm not worth kidnapping. Nobody would pay for me." He'd say, "Well, Dean, you'd be surprised what Americans are worth. Somebody
Yeah.
will pay for you, whether it's the Red Cross." Anyways, I lied to him about my room number. My guy I was with, he goes, "Are you going to feel bad if they kidnapped the wrong person?" I go, "Absolutely not." The guy doesn't need my room number. And the people who don't travel will don't know that the cab driver or the concierge or the bartender could be part of the conspiracy.
True, true.
So you say you don't want to be loose-lipped about things.
Yeah, geez.
Hey, we're catching the cab door at 8:15. So, lots of crazy places. Which will be classified, which is funny when you come back to the US. I think we make the assumption. I had a friend of mine, and his boss was the first American shot by the mob. This guy's name was Paul Tatum, and he's from Madison,
Oh,
Wisconsin. And he had a hotel called the Hotel Renaissance. It was a joint venture with the Russians, and it was the first modern kind of hotel in Russia. Anyways, they offered to buy him out, and he refused. And they were pretty honest with him. They said, "This is an offer you can't refuse." And he went into the subway, and all of a sudden his security detail disappeared. And anyways, when David came back, he said, "Man, I made so much more money in Moscow." He said, "Yeah, but they shot your boss." And then that was the same day was a major. Anyways, I said, "But that's indiscriminate violence. That's a little different thing." Right?
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
which would be classified as a investment company.
Um, an ETF.
Yeah, right on.
The other
ETFs are
ones are
very, very
a
testable.
UIT and a face amount, right?
Yeah, UITs, I don't think you're correct. What you are going to get tested on, very testable, is contrasting an ETF with a traditional open-end mutual fund. And what you got to know is, remember, no forward pricing on an ETF. It's marginable. For test purposes, that means I know in the real world things are different. But for test purposes, it's passively managed. And that means it has a lower cost structure and is more tax efficient than an actively managed kind of a traditional mutual fund. So you're going to get at least one or two questions on an ETF. And the other thing you're going to get tested on is how does an ETF differ from an ETN?
Hmm.
And the ETN exchange rate note is a debt instrument. Very testable. The biggest difference between an American option and a European option is that American options,
I know it's A or C.
you're correct.
I'm
Again, I
I'm
like this
really
because your tutor, it's either A or C, and it would be A or C if this said European as well, right?
yeah.
One's European, one's American. So, hint, right? It's either A or C, no matter how this question ends. If this said,
I'm gonna say it's A.
what's that?
I'm gonna say A.
That is actually European style.
Ah,
So you don't have any
how is it?
European style, right? The answer is C. That is typical of, by the way, equity options. Equity options are typically American style, meaning they can be exercised anytime. Now, that's the first time I've said this to James. This is your first and only miss that I think was a bad miss
Yeah,
because this is just testable right now.
yeah.
Good news, it could have been this one if it said European style. You won't miss it again. But this
Gotcha.
answer set, this question is spot on,
Yeah.
right? That's definitely on the test. One thing I would recommend you do is the night before and morning of is just read these questions and answers because some of them are pretty spot on.
Right, right. Yeah.
Which investor would not classify as a accredited investor? Very testable to know that accredited investors can accept invitations to Reg D private placements. And so we're saying which one of these are not going to be able to accept that invitation.
Uh, B.
Yeah, it's a living, breathing human being walking planet or Earth or an organization. So you are correct. It is indeed B. I would know one, two, three. So $1 million net worth exclusive of your personal property.
Right.
One, two, three. $200,000 in income for the last 2 years with the expectation of 200,000 this year. Married and filing jointly 300 grand for the last 2 years with the expectation of that this year. Now in this Reg D like Rule 147 that we discussed earlier, like Reg A we have not discussed, is a safe harbor, an exempt transaction under 33, the Paper or Prospectus Act.
Mm.
And we have two versions of these Reg D private placements. We have 506B and we have 506C. The distinction with 506B, we can have up to 35 non-accredited investors, but we can't solicit. We can't advertise. With 506C, we can solicit, but we can't have any non-accredited investors. So you got this right. It is indeed B. I don't like the way Brian's asked that, but that concept is very testable. A customer with $100,000 to invest has indicated they'd like to have access to the money if the need should rise within the next year. As a registered rep, you would most likely recommend.
I would say a pool of short-term
Yeah.
investments.
Can you say a money market fund, right? That's what that is. Absolutely. Absolutely. The one they like on the test too, there's another one they have on the test where the person has been relocated by their company and they say, hey, James, I'm going to rent for a few months till I find a neighborhood I'd like. I'm going to take the proceeds from my sale of my house in California and roll it into the purchase of a new home. What should I do with this, $300,000? And again, you would say a pool of short-term investments or a money market instrument.
Okay.
Which would best describe a custodial bank?
B.
Oh yeah, give me a bunch of those.
Yeah.
That's pretty straightforward. What describes the risk profile of debt securities based on bond duration? Duration is the fancy word for volatility.
B.
Yeah, long and low. We always go with long-term bonds with the lowest coupon. So you are correct. That is very much a test question. I don't think on this SIE they will use the term duration. They'll use the term volatility, which
Okay.
is, the duration is what that is. Treasury notes backed by the U.S. government may be susceptible to which risk?
I say reinvestment risk.
Yeah, that's the only thing that actually works in the answer set. Right? I'm not a big fan of the question, but yeah, that's the only thing that really is true, right?
The thing I was thinking about too, I don't know, this is dumb to think about, but like credit, I think about
No
like
credit risk. Yeah,
treasury notes as like bonds and
yeah,
like,
there's no credit risk on Treasury security, right? The Treasury has no credit risk because they can print little green pieces of paper they owe you, and they can confiscate money from U.S. citizens. Other governments can print money, but not dollars, and other governments can confiscate tax, but not U.S. citizens. So you don't have credit risk, you don't have business risk, and there's no more liquid market than the Treasury market, right? So, but by process of elimination, that's our best answer. Your clients expressed interest in an ADR is very testable on the test, American Depository Receipts. You mentioned that it may contain, maybe this was the one you were talking about earlier.
Political risk.
Yeah, maybe they decide to nationalize telephone, Group de Modelo. They make beer in Mexico, right?
Yeah.
Maybe, the new Presidente at Scheinbaum decides that, they're going to nationalize that. Geographic risk, I might have tried too hard on that. I mean, I would prefer the one on the test, by the way, is not political risk. The test question about ADRs on your actual exam is currency risk because you're conducting the business in that foreign currency, and that's very testable, right? If
So if
I'm
they ask this question on the test, it would be currency, not
Oh,
political.
absolutely. They're going to ask you. ADRs have what kind of the following risk? It's going to be currency, right? If I'm collecting phone bills in pesos, telephones to Mexico, for example, used to take 10 pesos, get a buck. Now it's 20. My dividend got cut in half, right? And then the second thing is, why would you buy the ADR instead of buying the foreign security in the foreign market? It's easier to buy this foreign security in the US market because they'll translate the accounts from pesos to dollars in my example. We know it's T plus one. They'll translate the annual report from Espanol to Ingles. So it's a much easier way for a US investor to get the correlation or the asset allocation to that foreign market.
The currency risk question I've seen STC was like, aunt dies in London, and what would like the nephew be
Oh,
at
yeah.
risk? And it
Well,
was
yeah.
like
Convert the
currency.
pounds into dollars, right?
Yeah.
Pounds into dollars. By the way, then remember, it also gets tied to economics, the value of the dollar. Or to say the dollar is going up or down is meaningless unless they say in a relationship to what? I, James, like a strong dollar because I am a U.S. importer. I import scotch, I import tequila, I import cigars from Nicaragua. So I always like a strong dollar because it buys me more stuff. I feel bad. I'm contributing to the trade deficit, right? My international friends buy nothing from me, right? So a strong dollar is good for U.S. importers. It's bad for the trade deficit, right? If the dollar's weak, that's not good for Dean because I don't get to buy as much stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So, they're going to give you $10 and how it affects the trade balance, right? As U.S. exporter, we'd like a weak dollar. People are accusing our current president, of economically being sometimes contradicting himself of what he likes.
Yeah.
'Cause, some things, his fiscal policy, it sounds like he wants a strong dollar but he wants U.S. exports to be strong, and those are kind of contradictory. So,
Right.
Kevin Hassard is the chief economic advisor, and maybe I don't know, it'd be fun to interview him. How challenging is your job?
Yeah.
Playing President Truman said he always wanted a one-handed economist as an advisor because they'd always say, Mr. President, on one hand this, but on the other hand that. And then Truman said, if
Right.
I could cut off at their hand, I'd get the right answer. Right. All right. The price of an ETF, that's very much a test question.
Current market price.
Yeah. So yeah, boom. Very testable, right? That's why people like them. There's no forward pricing, right? Your client wishes to open a 529 to pay for the son's tuition. Which of the following is true?
There are no income limits.
Right on. They're not means tested. Boom. Coverdale's are. Coverdale suck. I don't know why anybody would offer Coverdale anymore in today's marketplace because the
The
520.
max for Cardinals is 2,000.
Yeah. How much college can you buy for 2 grand? Even when Dean was a college,
Yeah. Jeez.
that doesn't buy much college, your point,
No.
right?
Yeah.
And the other thing is, remember this means tested. Not everybody can qualify for a Coverdale. Most of the financial institutions I know of tell me they don't even offer them anymore. But on the test, let's be clear. On the test, in a beauty contest between a Coverdale and a 529, you would tell me the 529 kicks butt. Right? You can front
Say it
load
again.
5 years. You would tell me that the 529 is always better than the Coverdale for test purposes. Registrar would like to distribute an advertisement to his prospective clients, which is true.
D.
Uh, Pre-approval by a principal. Yep. Your principal is going to be ballistic if I see some ad and I didn't know anything about it, right? I'm going to say, hey,
Yeah.
do you know the definition of a retail communication? It does not require SEC approval.
It's if you have um I think it's more than 20 people, it's considered
25.
retail or
25.
25.
Now, James,
Oh,
we're
that's
getting there
correspondence.
because I'm pull it out of the stratosphere. So two test questions. Definition and what follows. The definition of retail communication is more than 25 prospects or clients in a 30-day period. Test question, what follows is it requires pre-distribution approval by a principal.
Okay.
Now, second test question. So that means there must be something that is 25 or less. Do you know what the 25 or less is? That's
Correspondence.
test question correspondence. The definition is testable. And then what follows? What follows is that can pre or post distribution approval by a principal. So the principal can decide, whether he wants to do it pre or post. An aggressive growth objective would most likely be one that invests in.
Objective. They're not asking, um, they're asking what an investor
Yeah.
would
So you said I'm an
aggressively invest
aggressive
in.
growth investor. You're an aggressive growth investor. Am I going to recommend to you fixed income bonds?
No,
Am I going to invest to
uh,
you blue chip stocks?
no. So it'd be D.
There you go.
Okay.
Your customer purchased a 7% callable bond, matures in 20 years. Interest rates increase to 9%. Which of the following would be affected?
7% call bond. Temperature 20 years rates increase. Um, the market price?
Yeah, right on. Right on, right? And then that would affect the other things. The only thing would never be affected would be the coupon. But
Mm,
based on that market price movement, then that would affect yield to maturity, yield to call.
okay.
Under Rule 144, very testable.
So- I don't think it's B or D.
You're correct. It is not
Uh,
B.
It's A.
Yeah, good job. Very testable.
So I was it was confusing me with the 90 days, 6 months, but I
No,
know
I'm
it's
with you.
it's
Yeah,
six
the grammar.
months after the offering.
I'm with you. The grammar is pretty atrocious.
Yes.
I think a good way to remember this is 144. I can sell up to 1% of the outstanding stock or the average of the last 4 weeks trading volume up to 4 times a year, every 90 days. I
Right.
fill that form at or prior. Portfolio that is defined as a growth portfolio would most likely invest in companies that with
A low PE ratio.
no, we'd be willing to pay a higher price to earnings multiple for a company that's growing, right? So
Okay.
that would be a growth portfolio. It would be a high PE. In fact, this morning on CNBC, they were talking about a company. And the guy said, this is outrageous. Its multiple is 50 times earnings, PE. And then Kramer said, well, yeah, but you're not buying it based on today's earnings. You're buying it based on the future expectations of earnings. So we have a future expectation of, major earning increases. We'd
Hmm.
be willing to pay a higher PE, right? So it's about the earnings increase in a growth stock.
Okay.
Low
Right.
PE would be a value investor.
Okay.
That would be a guy who says, Dean, I like to get back my money a little quickly. So PE is 12 to 1, 12 years to get back in earnings what I paid in price. So, those are different value investors versus growth investors, right? NVIDIA
Yeah.
is a, growth company. It depends on what you think the future of NVIDIA is, right?
Yeah.
It's not about what you think about NVIDIA today based on that price. It's based on what you think about the future of those, those chips.
Activities like increased business activity. I'm going to say decrease government spending.
Yeah, yeah, that's, this is called a supply side and demand side economics, and you are correct, right?
Oh, wait, did
And
I get it? Wait, is it buying?
well, no, I hit the wrong one. I was
Oh,
looking,
sorry, sorry.
yeah, my bad. I'm trying to get
Decreasing
I want to
government
put
spending.
this one back to the right one, right? That was C.
Yeah.
Missed that one. You're doing really good. But yeah, you are correct. This is about business activity, and it's talking about the Fed. It's not talking about fiscal policy. So if we're trying to ignite the animal spirits at the Fed, we'd want the money supply to go up, and we want interest rates to go down. So we would want to pump some money into the economy, and that means we would buy the government securities, right? Because that means the money goes out and the securities come in. So when the Fed buys government securities, the Federal Reserve Open Market Committee, the money supply goes up and interest rates go down, and that promotes economic activity. That's easy monetary policy. The Fed was lowering interest rates, right? When they sell
Hmm.
government securities, right? It's the opposite. Now, what answer did you say, James?
Decreasing government spending.
Yeah, I like that one too. I like that one too. But here it says business activity. It sounds like you're a supply side guy, and I'm with you on that. I don't think it's a bad miss. But you're
Okay,
right.
so it's buying
The
government
assumption
security.
here is that spending, the government spending, will go into the private sector, will be more productive.
Okay.
I'm
So
with you on that.
the
The
answer
answer is
is
C. Yeah, the answer is C because it's better than D. The reason it's better than D, even though I agree with you, you could make an argument for D, is that there the question would have had to be about demand side economics.
okay.
And under Mr. Keynes, the government decreasing their spending would have a negative effect on the economy. Now that's
Okay.
assuming you don't believe in supply side, right? So the idea, the what is it, Department of Government Efficiency, is that these hundreds of billions of dollars that Elon plans on cutting
Right.
from spending
Yeah.
be more productive in the private sector.
Right.
But if you're a Keynes guy, no, that means there's going to be less demand. You're cutting demand and we need demand, right? So
Yeah.
an equity REIT, a real estate investment trust.
Let's say B.
B owns mortgages and managed portfolio. Yep, and that's exactly right. We have different kinds of REITs. You're correct on that one.
Yeah.
We have mortgage REITs and we have hybrid REITs that do that. REITs, you buy a REIT for the same reason. You buy a mutual fund, professional management, diversification, ease of ownership, right? And then we have REITs that are publicly traded and we have REITs that trade privately. And unlisted security trades,
Over the counter.
yeah, and the over-the-counter markets can best be characterized as,
The pink marketplace.
well, no, NASDAQ is an over-the-counter market too. – 'Cause. 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 'Cause negotiated quote driven, whereas the New York is
Oh,
auction order driven. Or you need to be able to
negotiated.
contrast those two.
Okay.
Do you know what the third market is?
The third market.
Very testable. That's listed
Listed
securities.
securities over the counter.
Right on. You know what the fourth market is?
Um, the pink sheets. The pink sheets.
Trying to reschedule. I have somebody at
Oh
11.
no, no, it's fine. It's fine.
Reschedule.
To buy or sell securities via the voicemail. Thank you. Have a great day.
Hey, Mark, it's Dean here. We have a 24 tutoring session starting in about 5 minutes. I'm with my friend James, and we're doing a shared screen practice test, and we're running a little, who cares if it's slow if he's getting the questions right, which he is. But I would like to be able to finish this off. So I'm wondering if we can reschedule either later today or even perhaps tomorrow's better. Or if not, I can see you Thursday. I know we're trying to keep our tutoring rhythm going. But anyways, it's 10:55 my time, and our tutoring session starts at 11. Hopefully, you get this before that starts. But I'm going to finish up this session on the shared screen test. So that's kind of what I'm calling to give you a heads up. All right. Talk to you later. Bye. He's a pretty cool dude. So,
No, no worries.
he's like
Appreciate
he dresses sharp, but he has the tech sharp dress where he
it.
his shirts. I was telling him, I said, man, your shirts are he's got these really expensive. I wrote it down somewhere there. You can just kind of tell money.
Yeah. You were saying the fourth market, is it the
It's
pink
direct
market?
trading. So let's just go through this direct trading between institutions. Direct trading between institutions. T. Rowe
That's the
Price
fourth
selling.
market, direct trading between
That's
institutions.
right. So third market is listed securities traded over the counter. You got that right. And fourth market's direct trading between institutions. Again, this is just recognition. If they said 54 said, which of the following would best be described as direct trading between institutions, you'd say D. If they say, which of the following best describes listed securities traded over the counter, you would say third market.
Okay.
According to the Code of Arbitration, the composition of the panel may consist of.
C, both members.
Yeah, yeah. And if you want, you can say, I would like to have everybody who's, from the public. Treasury bills and varying maturities are.
Issued at a discount.
All money market securities are issued at a discount except negotiable jumbo CDs. Commercial papers issued at a discount. Bankers' acceptances are issued at a discount, traded at a discount, treasury bills. So whenever there's three things, they love the accept format on the test. You are correct. They are issued at a discount. XYZ offers a tender offer for its stock at $10 a share for a minimum of 1,000 shares, a maximum of 100,000 shares. If your customer owns 500 shares, how much would they receive?
0, because they didn't reach the minimum.
Right on. Perfect. Brian tried to get you on that one. He didn't.
Yeah.
What do we call that stock that XYZ has bought back? There's a certain name for stock that has been repurchased or acquired by the issuer. You know what that's called?
Um, oh, um, can't think of it. I know
Yeah,
it's
well,
like,
remember, that's the game we're playing, James. I'm being a jerk
yeah.
at making, but it's called treasury stock.
Okay.
Treasury stock.
Right.
Two things to know about treasury stock.
Treasury stock is issued stock, right?
It pays no dividends, has no voting rights. Now, this is a corporate action. This is called a tender offer. And how long do we have to leave a tender offer open?
Is it 30 days?
20 days.
20 days.
20 days. So once a company makes
Tender
a
offers,
tender,
20 days. Okay.
the city of Birmingham has issued 100 million 4% industrial development bonds for the purpose of attracting mega tech to the area to create jobs. These bonds will be. I like this one. This is a good question.
B.
Right on. That's very testable. Corporate credit backs the bonds. Corporate credit backs the bonds. Your customer owns data comp. Your customer owns data comp and is interested in starting a retirement plans for its employees. Data comp currently employs almost 100 employees. Wow. Most appropriate plan would be.
C is simple.
Yeah, excellent.
Equity option strike price.
A non-equity option strike price is currently equal to the market price of the underlying index. It is.
Oh, at the money.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah, that answer set I like. You're going to get a couple option questions where,
Yeah, the market, if the market price is over the strike price,
well, it
it's a
depends.
call. It's in the money, right?
That's call up and put down right on. To determine current yield, one would
D.
I'm sorry,
D.
you're correct. That is very much a test question. Let's see what my buddy here says. He's pretty cool. I'd be surprised. You like in business, you got customers. You always got to kind of guess whether.
No worries. Do you mind if I run to the restroom real quick?
Absolutely, absolutely, go for
All
it.
right, be right back. All right, thank you.
You bet. The VIX is an index that helps to determine the fair pricing of options based on the volatility of underlying stocks. The VIX tracks prices of which index?
Dow Jones.
No, that's a bad miss. The S&P 500. Whenever we're talking about market return, it's the S&P 500. The Dow Jones is the most meaningless index there is because it's, 30 stocks, price weighted. Russell 2000 would be the benchmark for small caps. We don't care about the S&P 100. So whenever we talk market return, another way this shows up is under modern portfolio theory, we have this concept of beta.
Hmm.
Beta is a measurement of volatility as compared to the market, and the market's the S&P 500. Not bad, like I say, James. Got to give yourself grace. You're doing great. I think if you had 5 misses. Let's see, what's my hash mark here? That's number 6. That'll get it done. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Uh, when may the owner of a 529 change the beneficiary?
At any time.
Yeah, right on. You know, boom. A spouse calls to place a trade in her husband's account when he's away on business. For discretionary trades, the registered rep may,
D.
yeah, you can't, yeah, they love to give you questions on,
Yeah, even if it's the wife, you have to
yeah,
still.
yeah, she's not going to be happy, but hey, what can I tell you? That's the way it is, right?
Yeah.
Which of the following events would require prompt notification to a registered U4?
Bankruptcy.
Yeah, right. Non-material changes would be 30 days. Registered may share commissions.
B.
Yeah, you can share, with your somebody who's on your team at your firm. Loans from customers would be permissible in which of the following?
A.
Yeah, it's not, you can't borrow money from a customer. You've had to have had a pre-existing relationship with them.
Yeah.
So the answer here is D,
Oh, yeah.
right? You can't lend loan from customers. Now, by the way, this is about you as a rep taking a loan from a customer. I say, you're so rich, James. I'm so poor. How about some money? No, right? If
There's
we
like there's a question on STC that like it'll say like if it's if it asks about like something very similar to this, like a loan, like it's like if it's
Well,
like
like I say, just when
like
we
in the
get
business of selling loans to your
that,
dealer.
well, oh yeah, well, be careful what you're being asked on the investment of what a loan from the customer. Let's go over that. But remember, if you find it, screenshot it, make up your dean to-do list.
Yeah.
I told you
Yeah.
we'll schedule another session after this. But that would be you can get a loan from a bona fide lending institution as a customer, right?
Okay.
So if this customer is Bank of America and they're a customer of your broker dealer and you get a car loan or a mortgage, that would be fine. We're talking about, this is your buddy at the church, right? And okay, now, okay, is your buddy since what? Since you became a broker? No. He's been your friend for decades and you borrowed money from him in the past. That's a different scenario. To protect a bond portfolio from changes in interest rates, a manager might.
Hmm. I'm gonna purchase call options.
Well, no, you wouldn't do options here. You would buy bonds that actually go up or down based on the base rate,
Oh, shit.
right? A call option means how would you do that? Way beyond your SIE. You could buy yield-based calls, but I don't think they expect that to be something viable as a SIE answer. So my point is, I don't think that's a bad answer if that's what you're thinking. But a company with authorized shares,
B.
it doesn't have to issue them all. We have authorized but unissued shares. So we might authorize 5 million shares and only issue 2 million. So there's no requirement you issue all the shares you authorize in your corporate charter. We have 4 definitions. We have authorized, issued, treasury, outstanding. authorizes the maximum number of shares a corporation may issue, right? So maybe that's 5 million. Issued, we issued 2 million. That's great because that means we can come back if we want and issue 3 million more shares and make an acquisition, get some more equity financing. So we would typically have more shares authorized than we plan on issuing.
Okay.
And then we talked about treasury stock and then issued less treasuries outstanding. Which position would cover a 50 call? So we have two versions of calls. We have naked and we got covered. Naked and covered are two versions of a call. This is a covered call. So what position would cover a call? Oh, I'll tell you, Brian's a jerk. You're long a 50 call, so you have a choice to buy. I don't know why he's doing it this way. This is a tough one. I think this is kind of a gotcha question.
I mean, if he's buying a call option,
Yeah, he's buying a
I'm
call.
like, why are you going to buy more? I'm going to say sell.
Yeah, that's the answer. He's saying this
To
would
hedge it, you'd sell something, I
yeah,
feel
yeah,
like.
absolutely. So that was a tough one. I think that was pretty tough. I thought it was about a covered call, and it wasn't. So you got to be careful you don't read a question you thought was there. 71, XYZ company declares a 45-cent cash dividend for shareholders as of record Monday, June 9th. Now, this has changed, and the X date would now be Monday, June 9th. So it looks like Brian has not updated his exam for the change to regular way settlement from T plus one, right? So this
Oh, right, right,
this used to be prior to May of last year. This would have been the day before, which would have been Friday. But now
right.
I'm not sure if I can change his practice exam. I'll leave it. But anyways, we talked about that.
So it'd
SIPC,
be so for cash, it would be the same day.
same day indeed.
Yeah, right.
SIPC would cover all the following positions except
D doesn't cover commodities or futures.
he doesn't exactly right. Does not cover commodities. Very testable. What is the coverage for? What's the max coverage under SIPC?
250,000.
No,
Wait, so
five
sorry, 500,000, 250,000 can be cash.
per separate customer, right?
Separate customer.
A reverse split would have which of the effect on a company's stock?
Feel like it's not here. Wait, because
Yeah, remember you
wait,
told me this. You knew this earlier. You said, Dean,
yeah, no, yeah, reverse stock.
yeah, you said we in an earlier question, you said, Dean, we'd have more shares at a low.
Oh, yes. What am I thinking?
And then you said to me, you gave me this answer. You said, Dean, if it was reverse split, it would be the opposite.
Yeah,
I said, indeed.
reverse. Yeah, hold on. Maybe I was confusing myself. Increase.
Well, James, that's good news, right? You got enough brain power to outsmart yourself, but let's try not to do that on the test.
Yeah.
I'm facetious, but I mean, you're doing really, really good. So,
Increase in
when you're
ownership.
missing questions, it could be just you, making it more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah. What am I thinking? Hold on. So we're same. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's C.
There
C.
you go. There you go.
Oh,
And just make
yeah.
sure too, you take your time, right?
Yeah.
You know that because you do know it. You know more than you don't know, and so you want to make sure. Usually, I tell people not to take too much time because they usually, end up picking the wrong thing. But in your case, I think it's fine just to be clear that you say, "Hey, I know this." Automatic disqualification. That's called statutory disqualification. By statute, you can be disqualified, no explanation to you about why. For an individual to be registered would include all the following except. So one of these things is not a reason for statutory disqualification.
D.
D is definitely reasons for statutory disqualification. C,
There,
it has to be a securities related misdemeanor for statutory disqualification, meaning you can still be disqualified, but they would have to tell you why.
oh, I thought like
Any
because
felony.
I thought conviction has more weight than being under review or under.
Being under an SEC suit, or it's not review. Where do you see review?
Oh, sorry, be under an SEC order to be
Yeah,
barred.
that's not a review. You've been banned from the securities industry. I think here, Jordan Belfort, did you see Wolf of Wall Street?
Yes, yes,
Yeah, he's still running around. He's doing sales training and he's doing cryptocurrencies and he's been barred. So we're not supposed to associate with him, right? And then it's not that it's a DUI, any felony within the last 10 years, right? So it doesn't matter if it's a DUI, any felony,
right.
right? And then A is you said no on the U4 and you should have said yes, right? 75, a customer has no transaction past 18 months, very testable. How often do you send statements?
Quarterly,
Yeah, and then remember if it's a penny stock, then the answer is
monthly.
right on, very testable. Boom. Hey, I probably could have made that other. I forgot we had only 75 here.
Yeah.
That was excellent, my friend. I'm always love when I be able to tell people you're right where you need to be. You are not at risk, and that is a great place to be.